eHealth is an electronic healthcare management system. Roles and responsibilities in eHealth are defined by data from business registries of medical institutions involved into the system. In terms of minimizing data entry time, it is intended to enter all the data for institutions simultaneously via specially designed Excel file. This video is described how to enter the data to such file. The first sheet user is exposed to is Help sheet. Prior inputting data to file, user should match Excel settings to those presented on Help page. This can be done by relevant specialist or by any users with help of manuals and instructions on the page. Data entry instructions are also presented here, so please read them prior to start data entry. After adjustment of all necessary settings, click Start button in upper part of Help page to activate data input sheets. First data sheet is Home. This is so-called main page. It contains the list of all data input sheets. Those highlighted by yellow are mandatory. Status column indicates correctness of inputted data. Is empty column informs us about absence of any data in the sheet. Count of errors column defines number of errors on exact sheet. Let's return to list of the sheets in the medical departments. It's a list of all departments in particular medical institution. Medical department rooms are all the rooms in departments of the medical institution. Service import. This sheet contains information about services that the institution provides. Medical position. It is intended for a list of employees who have medical specialization. Medical personnel. This is personal data for medical employees of the institution. And other position sheet. This contains a list of administrative and other non-medical employees of institution. Other personnel consecutively contains personal data about non-medical employees. Resource and managers. This is list of equipment and other resources in institution, and in case of necessity of managers of those resources. Medical working hours. This is list of working hours for medical personnel, and other working hours is the same list for non-medical personnel. And the last sheet, hierarchy, it is intended to define hierarchy for complex departments within an institution. Now I will show data entry examples for separate sheets. This is medical department sheet. It is intended to list all departments in medical institution. Note that in all lists, columns highlighted by gray are mandatory. Here we have department type. It is selected from provided list. And department specialization. It is also selected from the list. And here is location field. It is input field intended for address of the department. Now we would add another department and check the data. Data check is performed by clicking check in last column of each sheet. In case there are errors or discrepancies, they would be displayed in relevant lines. Here we make an intentional mistake and check the data again. Look, the program would inform us about the mistake. Here is the error message about the data should be inputted in both columns. This happens because gray columns are mandatory and we skipped one. If user just shift the sheet, check would be performed automatically. Also, if we move to home sheet, we would see number of all errors visualized there. Another data check type is auto check by column. Depending on column type, like if value should be selected from the list, user is unable to manually input different value. Now we will correct the error and repeat the check. So no errors are revealed, as you see. Next page is medical department rooms sheet. On this sheet, all rooms from medical departments are inputted. Sheet consists of two columns. Department type specialization is selected from the list of departments previously inputted in medical department sheet. So here we have allergology and vascular surgery departments, and we can select from them. Next column is room. This is again an input field for name or number of the room. Any type of symbols or numbers can be used here. So we check the data and finish with this sheet. Service import sheet. This sheet is intended to store information about services provided by institution. Here are the columns. Name of the service, date of the service activation, and price, actual price of the service. These fields are mandatory. Following fields are optional and can be left empty. Date of active to, active from, these are dates of active service activation. Price to, price from, these are price ranges, and description, short description of the service. Also, we need to indicate current activation status of the service. If 0 is inputted here, service would enter to the system as inactive, but can be activated later manually. If 1 is inputted, service would be active from the moment it is imported to the system. Service code, it is also a mandatory field, it's code of the service, is per day. Is per day indicates whether the service is paid by day or just by service provision. If 1 is inputted, final fee for service would be calculated via multiplying the price and number of the days that it was provided for. In case of 0, fee would consist only of price after service provision. Next columns are not mandatory, they just describe the service in details. For detailed information, please refer the user manual. Department type specialization. Here goes the department that provides current service. Now let's perform check, as we filled already all mandatory fields, and let's proceed. Let's proceed to medical position sheet. This sheet displays medical employees of institution. Contains following columns. Position. Let's select the position from preloaded list. Let's select allergologist. Then we would need position opening date, position closing date, which is optional field, wage rate for current position, and department type and specialization. This is the department where the position belongs to. Let's perform check and move to next sheet. Medical personnel sheet. This sheet is intended for personal data of employees who are medical professionals. It has following columns: name, last name, patronymic, this field is optional, gender, date of birth, social security number, passport number, phone number, this field is also optional and can be left empty, email, this field is mandatory. Then comes the field for mobile phone number, which is also optional. Then it is field for department specialization. This is the department where the employee belongs. Besides departments that were previously defined on medical department list, here medical personnel or administrative department can be used. When entering medical personnel, employee is indicated in list of medical staff of institution. When new employee is added, he or she should be first included in medical staff by inputting medical personnel in one line and then in other line his actual position should be entered. Thus, we select the personnel field, then role to define is employee doctor, nurse or junior nurse. We select doctor here. Then we add a relevant, now let's add a relevant position now. Copy personnel data. Select an apartment when employer would be assigned. After selecting a department, program automatically search for positions in it. So here it is allergologist. Now let's input opening and closing date and wage rate. Employment specialization is inputted automatically. Manage resources. Detailed information for this column is provided during resources and manager sheet description. Here there are contract details like contract number, contract start date and contract end date. Here is the number, the start date and date of the end of the contract. Now we define the role of the person in healthcare institution. So you see when the format is not matching Excel format, we have errors. Let's define the role and check the result. So we have no errors and can move to next sheet. Other positions sheet. This sheet is similar to medical position sheet, just it stores the data for administrative and other non-medical employees of institution. Sheet contains same fields as medical position sheet, and again we can input data there. Data about position, opening date, a wage rate for a particular position. Then it comes department type. Here is one difference. We can select administrative. If it's selected here like this, the position would belong not to particular department but to whole institution. Let's perform data check and move to next sheet. This is other personnel sheet, which is identical to medical personnel sheet again and stores personal data of non-medical employees of institution. Let's input all the personal data first, like name, last name, gender, date of birth, social security number, passport number, and email. Let's include the employee in staff of institution. Also, we can select whether can person in future manage any resources. For this, we have resource manager column. We should input yes, because we want this employee to manage resources in future. If it is no, or it is empty, which is equal to no, person cannot manage resources. Now let's select administrative personnel and copy the data. We are copying the data here again to assign a specific position for the person. After it, we need to enter wage rate, for employment position. Specialization is again entered automatically. We are inputting contract details now, like contract number, start date, and end date for it. Then we assign a role and check the data. Data is checked, no errors. We are moving to next sheet, which is resource and managers. Sheet contains information about equipment and other resources of medical institution. It consists of columns that describes the resource, like model, manufacturer, production date. These are optional fields. Then it comes type of the resource. It's selected from the list. Then the resource name itself and local name. Local name is used to indicate a specific resource, like if there are several same resources, they should be somehow distinguished. Then serial number, which is also optional, and department type or specialization. This is the department where the resource is registered. Here we are selected from the list previously defined on medical department sheet. In case of availability of resource manager, data for them is also accumulated here. So it's again selected from the list. Only employees who were set as resource managers previously appears in the list here. If resource has no particulate manager, the cell remains empty. Let's check the data and move ahead. Medical working hours sheet. This sheet is intended for information about working hours of medical employees. Data input to this page can be performed only after data in medical departments, medical positions, and medical personnel is inputted. Columns in sheet are department type specialization. We selected from the list. Role, it is role of employee as it is defined on the medical personnel sheet. It is selected from the list that appears only after data to previous column is entered. Employee, data about employee. It is again selected from the list that appears after data to previous two columns is entered. Weekday, these are work day in a week when the current person works. Start time, this is start of working time for particular weekday. And end time, end of person's working time. Be sure to use correct formats for time here. Here comes room number. It's number of the room where the employee works. It is optional. Let's check the data. So the data is correct and we are moving to other working hours sheet. This sheet is identical to previous one and it is intended for information about working hours of administrative and other non-medical employees of institution. Data input to this page can be performed only after data in medical departments, other position and other personnel is inputted. Columns and entry rules are identical to those for medical working hours sheet. As you see, we enter almost the same data. Now perform the data check. So everything is okay and we are moving ahead. Hierarchy sheet. In some medical institutions, certain hierarchy of departments exist. For example, dental cabinet may belong to department general therapy. To contain such information, sheet need following columns. Department type specialization. Select one from the list of departments previously inputted. And sub-department type or specialization. Again from the list. Check the data. It's okay. After data entry is finished, return to Home sheet. If data is entered correctly, sheet would have following look. As you see, there are no errors in status column. To check line by line, use check button at beginning of each line. To check the whole batch of entered data, click check all. If no discrepancies and errors are revealed, click create the final file. After this, program would compile all the data for import and create a new file. This requires some time. File is going to be saved in same location when initial Excel file exists. And would have following name. Let's find it. The name would consist of name of Excel file, then portal, then current date, then current time. This file is intended to be loaded to special software that is importing business registry data to eHealth. This is all about data entry to Excel file. For further information, you can refer to user manual. Thank you for attention. Goodbye.